Hello?
Hey man, where you been?
Well, I've got this baby.
You're still doing that? People have been freaking out asking when the next Off the Panel's gonna be.
Well, we both know that's not true.
But it's been like a month since you uploaded.
A month? Well, I've been doing this parenting thing long enough. So this was originally planned to be a video about the Ed Norton Hulk movie, which I have always thought was the first MCU movie. Turns out I was wrong and that half-written Hulk script will have to wait, but it's a very easy mistake to make because Iron Man and Hulk were released 42 days apart. Every year, The Flash takes a mid-season break that's longer than 42 days. Last time they took like an 85-day break. That is stupidly close together for two movies to release from the same series. Anyways, I've been doing this for about 2 years now, and somehow in all that time covering comic book media, I haven't even come close to talking about the MCU. I managed to pull out the Ghost Rider PlayStation 2 game and the canceled Wonder Woman TV pilot before letting Robert Downey Jr. carry the show like Disney did. So if you couldn't tell by my raspy, slow, tired voice and my Pete Davidson level eye bags, I've been sleeping in 2-hour increments for the past 3 weeks, so if it worked for Disney, I'll give it a shot. RDJ, take the wheel. I could use a mattress sponsorship or something. Health insurance is expensive. We're talking about Iron Man today. Iron Man is the MCU movie I've probably seen the most times. I first saw it at a drive-in theater double feature with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I'll let you take a quick guess which one of those two movies I fell asleep during.
Joe College hit him hard. Here, hold this.
What?
That's my boyfriend!
Get that greaser!
I've watched it maybe 2 or 3 times since then, and no matter how much better it is compared to the Crystal Skull, I've always thought Iron Man was less than stellar. I've never considered it an awful movie by any means. I've always just kind of thought of it as an okay movie. Just a middle-of-the-road film about a rich guy with an iron shirt, and iron pants, and iron skin. But when I was watching it the other day for this video, something seemed different. My opinion was swayed to one side. So let's get into it. Iron Man released May 2nd, 2008, and is the first movie of the MCU franchise distributed by Paramount Pictures, because Disney wouldn't buy Marvel till October of 2009 in this massive $4 billion deal. Iron Man was directed by Jon Favreau, who you may know as Paz Vizsla from The Mandalorian, or possibly is the creator of The Mandalorian. Or probably is Happy Hogan. It's most likely Happy Hogan. I'll show you a Happy Hogan.
And thank you and tell you that we all love you for all the entertainment you've given us over the past few years, dude.
Of course, it stars Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, Iron Man, Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts, and Terrence Howard as James Rhodey Rhodes.
One of these things is not like the others. One of these things
Didn't make a couple billion Disney dollars and got replaced by Don Cheadle instead. Anyways, the movie opens up with Back in Black by AC/DC, a band that every time I hear them I think, I should really listen to more AC/DC. And then I listen to another AC/DC song and immediately realize I was wrong. This is a very unfortunate circumstance for me, because people seem to really like the pairing of AC/DC and Iron Man. So much that they did the entire soundtrack for the second movie. But luckily, we're still talking about the first movie, so I can get tortured by that later. So AC/DC is playing, while our hero Tony Stark is riding a Humvee with some army mans through Afghanistan. And Tony is being just a rude guy. Like, not pleasant at all. And we'll touch on that in a little more in a bit. Because terrorists must dislike AC/DC much more than I do, because they blow up Tony's Humvee to get it to stop playing. And can you really blame them? This causes a huge firefight, ending with Tony getting blown up, before fading to Tony surrounded by terrorists and cutting to the movie logo. If my memory serves me right, this is the wildest intro in all of the MCU. I don't remember any other intros as fast-paced and thrilling as Tony Stark getting exploded. After this, we time travel back to before the events of the opening to learn about how Obadiah Stane ran Stark Industries before Tony was old enough to take over after his dad died. And then we proceed to see Tony Stark do nothing but be a massive prick for about 10 minutes. We're talking about skipping events he promised people he'd be at, war profiteering, womanizing, and worst of all, having a dumbass goatee. This whole section of the movie is just Tony boozing it up and neglecting his job and his friends. This is absolutely perfect superhero material. Next, Tony flies to Afghanistan to try to secure a military contract for his new Jericho missile. And this is where we catch up to the point in time the movie started, after Tony uses his wacky, clearly not a sponsorship cell phone. And then, oh great, it's back. From here, the whole tone of the movie shifts to this horror movie vibe. We see flashes of Tony getting this back alley surgery, and then, after he wakes up and yanks this string out of his nose, he realizes he's connected to a car battery. It's like Ironman suddenly becomes the movie Tusk, but about 6 years too early. But instead of the man turning another man into a walrus, they turn a regular guy into a regular guy with a homemade pacemaker. Jokes aside, what's happened here is the shrapnel from the missile explosion is headed towards Tony's heart, and the terrorists force Dr. Jensen to make this magnet car battery thing to push the shrapnel away so they can keep him alive long enough to make them a new Jericho missile. But instead, Tony and his new best friend, and the person I would consider to be the most important character in all of the MCU, Jensen, use this time to build a better heart battery and an Iron Giant cosplay. Tony and Jensen use that suit that, upon its reveal, looks like it's about to say, "Mom, I froed up," to escape captivity in the most cartoonish fashion possible. So let's look at that again with some sound effects and tell me that it's not straight out of an episode of Tom and Jerry. See? Anyways, that happens after murdering like 40 to 90 people and the loss of the great Jensen. Only a few minutes after we meet him. Jensen is the most underappreciated hero in the MCU. Without Jensen, there is no Iron Man. He MacGyvers Tony a new robot heart out of miscellaneous items he found in the desert, helps him build a suit to escape, and even sacrifices himself to make sure Tony gets out. And instead of a thank you, Tony builds a better version of a Robo Heart and leaves Jensen to die in a cave, and never, ever mentions him again. Jensen is the superhero movie equivalent of an unpaid intern. So this first 40 minutes or so of the movie is what I consider to be the best part of the whole film. And every time I watch it, I like it more and more. It's definitely the most interesting superhero origin story. It's better than the 5-minute explanation of, oh, I got toxic waste on me and now I'm a superhero that we get most of the time. The horror tone is cool. The stakes feel much higher. We all know Tony isn't going to die, but it's a little more compelling compared to, I got bit by a bug and now my glasses don't work, or I'm afraid of bats, or I'm bald. And as much as I enjoy this part of the movie, there's still a whole hour and a half in a Burger King sponsorship to get through. Has anyone ever actually held a fast food bag like this? Like, you structurally couldn't support the bag like that. You get fries everywhere. Plus, you're trying to tell me that Tony spent 3 months in captivity, being tortured after having his whole chest cavity removed, and he thought, Burger King sounds nice. I haven't gotten the correct order at a Burger King in 6 years, and on top of that, I don't think any of their drink machines work, because carbonation doesn't seem to be an item on the Burger King menu. Go to Wendy's like a grown-up. Unbelievable. Oh yeah, I forgot we still have that hour and a half to talk about. So Tony holds a press conference when he gets back to announce that Stark Industries will no longer be manufacturing weapons. And our friend from earlier, Obadiah, he doesn't like that. And Tony, he doesn't care. The next thing I want to touch on real quick is the absurd technology in Tony's house. He has a hologram TV and these touchscreen home phone systems in 2008. But all this technology only seems to exist inside Tony's house, because when they show his work computer later on, it's like a 2003 Dell running Windows 98. We also get to see another string get pulled from Tony when they replace his Roboheart for the third time. And then Tony begins working on the Iron Man suit, while the terrorists from before try to rebuild the Iron Giant suit. In the next scenes, we see Tony start to build the actual Iron Man suit, as he tests each piece one by one. And in the middle, Obadiah drops by to tell Tony that the board has voted him out as CEO of Stark Industries, before we get more scenes of Tony testing the Iron Man suit, leading up to the first appearance of Tony's head with a black background. This is possibly the most iconic image in all of the MCU. It's so simple, yet so perfect. Although it does bring to light the vast differences in commitment that the actors have to the MCU. Robert Downey Jr. stands in front of black poster board and is considered the king of the MCU. But Karen Gillan shaves her head and paints herself up like a member of the Blue Man Group for every MCU appearance, and she doesn't even have her own movie. All the test scenes are fun. The gag of the robot hitting him with a fire extinguisher at the slightest malfunction gets me every time. And I really like the chrome Iron Man suit. I think it looks rad. I also noticed something in these scenes that bothers me just a little bit. Tony cuts holes in shirts around the arc reactor, but only in some of his shirts. Why would he only cut select shirts? Is this a fashion statement? What is the purpose of cutting the hole? Why not just wear the shirt over it like he does 90% of the time? The suit test ends with Tony freezing up his suit, but no worries. He's able to break out of it and make it home safely. From here, Tony continues to refine his suit. Him and Obadiah bicker some more, and we get to see a full Iron Man suit up before Tony goes on a terrorist murdering rampage. But because they're terrorists, I think it's called justicing instead of murdering. Either way, that punch ruptured that man's soul. I know we're going a little long here, so I'm going to try to wrap this last 20 minutes up quick. Some boring army stuff happens. Tony decides nothing but Iron Man matters, while our buddy Obadiah is busy stealing the Iron Giant suit so he can make it more giant. And the last ingredient he needs to make his giant Iron Giant suit work is Tony's heart. So he literally rips it from his chest. But that's okay because Pepper kept his old Robo heart they removed earlier in the movie, so Tony can suit up and fight the Ironmonger. That's the actual name of the giant Iron Giant. I think I picked the better name for that suit. So they fight this big climactic battle in the street in front of and on the roof of the Stark Lab building. Tony defeats Obadiah, and then he tells everybody that he's Iron Man. And that's the end of the movie. And then it's not, and Nick Fury shows up. So as we go through these movies over the next 10 years or so, it'll take me to cover all of them. I'll be ranking them as well on a tier list opposed to a 1 through 32 or whatever list. That way I don't have to move them around as new ones come out. And tier lists were trendy 5 years ago and I get to everything late, so that makes sense. So if you would have asked me before this viewing, I would have thrown Iron Man into a B or C tier as a just okay movie. But like I said earlier, after I put on my pretend internet critic hat for this, that would be this hat, I think this movie lands in the A tier. But it's not the best of the best. So slightly less sleep deprived editing version of me is going to take over for why I think this movie is A tier, because past me didn't do a great job of explaining why that is. I think the CG holds up incredibly well for a 15-year-old movie. The origin story, like I said before, is way better than 90% of origin stories we get in superhero movies. I think the dark themes of Tony being depressed about almost dying and then deciding that he should change the way he is to become somebody who saves people instead of creating weapons to kill people is a very compelling narrative. The fight scenes are awesome when he justices all the terrorists, when he's fighting Obadiah in the street. It's all done incredibly well. The bits of comedy we get from Tony in this are great. The writing is top tier. The directing is solid. I know I'm talking about it like it's an S tier movie. The reasons it's not are because the military sections are kind of boring. They drag on too long. They seem like they're kind of wedged in at times. I think some of the opening Tony being a prick sections are a little longer than they need to be. Just generally the movie could be cut down a little bit. It may make it a little better for the runtime because it tends to dip before it gets great. So that's it. I'm going to give you back to Past Me, and he's going to try to sell you a t-shirt. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad idea. I don't make movies. I make these bad internet videos. Now, I may be completely wrong. Some people may think that this movie is perfect in every way. It's an S tier, greatest superhero movie of all time. And that's fine. Those people should probably subscribe, and they should also comment and put their comic book review show in the comments so I can see their opinions there. Also, they should buy a t-shirt. And by they, I mean you. I'm sure the video announcing the store is up by now. It's probably linked in the description. Or it's not, and I'm just lying to you. We'll see. Either way, you know shirts will be sold eventually, and you can subscribe to find out when that is. And if it is out or is coming out soon, I'll probably link it somewhere here in the video so you can select it and go watch that video to see what other things I'm doing soon in the future. Now, get out of here and go watch Ironman.